Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is Uncle Yeow and the Singapore Story. Now, today I would like to touch on the more relevant, interesting topic, and that is on politics. Now, we all know G2025, Singapore's general elections, is just around the corner. It will be on the 3rd of May, which is this coming Saturday. So, there's a lot of activities. Everybody is now garnering and trying to get your votes. So, I would like to talk a little bit about our election and how we got here thus far. Now, before I do that, it is important to know that this year we are celebrating SG60. 60 very successful years, alright? Not many countries can succeed within 60 years. Many have failed and fallen along the way. So this is SG celebration. Now, before we even go to the polls, it is important to take a step back and reflect on what happened during these 60 very successful years of Singapore. It is not by accident. It is not by luck. It is actually through the sheer grit, determination, hard work, alright, and sacrifices by our leaders over all these years. And this is the man we have to thank for. Obviously, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew. He's the one who started all this, especially the Singapore story, and how he wrote the first chapter of the Singapore story. Now, he's not alone in this. In the first pioneer generation leaders, you have Lee Kuan Yew, you have Goh Keng Swee, you have Rajaratnam, you have Hon Swee Sen, you have Lim Kim San, you have E.W. Barker, and many others. Now, they were all excellent in their own rights, alright, and they all contributed immensely to the success and the beginning of the success of Singapore. Now, what did they contribute? They actually managed to create a governmental system whereby these things hold true and center. Number one, meritocracy. Number two, pragmatism. Number three, incorruptibility. So it's because of all these virtues and values that we have seen Singapore progress over the last 60 years. In fact, nobody actually believed Singapore could succeed as an independent nation. Alright, because we do not have any natural resources, not even water. Water we have to get from Malaya. But succeed we did, because it is through the sheer grit, determination, hard work, sacrifices of our first generation, first G leaders. Then came the 2G leaders. Second generation, people like Goh Chok Tong, Jayakumar, Dhanabalan, George Yeo, and many others. Alright, that gives us the 2G leaders. And then after that, the baton was passed on to the 3G leaders. And the 3G leaders, of course, we know, who have just recently stepped down. Lee Hsien Loong, Teo Chee Hean, Aman, and then Shanmugam, Ng Eng Hen, and many others. So, succession of leaders, first G, second G, third G, all very important. And how did this happen? It is not by luck. Actually, LKY created what is called no crashing of gears, especially for leadership. What do you mean by that? In order to be a minister, to become a minister, to become the prime minister, you have to gone through baptism of fire. You have to gone through many years of training and preparedness. Alright? And that's how, when our leaders assume leadership position, they don't fail, because they are all been tested and proven. That's how we do it. And if you look at our leaders, especially the government leaders, They can all hold a candle to any world leader in any forum, under any circumstances. They can take them on one-on-one. And this is the difference. Not many countries can do that. So this gives you a backdrop of how Singapore can become successful. All right. Now, Lee Kuan Yew also does not believe in the revolving door kind of politics, whereby every 4 or 5 years you get a change of government, then you get a change of leadership, everybody come in green, and then they start to experiment. That's not the way to go about it. So he believes we need to continue not to have revolving door. If you look at even in the UK, for example, in the last year or so, last 2 years, there's been a change of 3 or 4 prime ministers within a very short time. And this is very disruptive and it's not good for the country. So this is very important. Now in Singapore's case, of course, we all want opposition voices in parliament. And it's right to have opposition voices. But we must be very selective. We must really select those with the highest caliber, not just any Tom, Dick and Harry. Tom, Dick and Harry, they go into parliament, then they say they make a lot of noise. In the end, nothing gets done. Then they blame, say, oh, I tried, but nothing could be done. That's not what we want. And very important, we must not let politics in Singapore degenerate into what happened in some other countries. Give you an example. In Taiwan, Taiwan claims to be the beacon of democracy, but look at the politics in Taiwan nowadays. It's a mess. Their parliament, all right? Every day there's quarreling, bickering, even fighting. If you look at some of the pictures of the Taiwanese parliament, you'll be shocked. All right? For example, even pig guts were thrown around in parliament when they were fighting and when they were not debating. They were fighting. All right? Brawl breaks out in Taiwan. Now, let me ask you, is that the kind of parliament we want to see? Now, Singapore, our politics, our government system is very different from the rest of the world. All right? Very orderly. Yes, every 5 years or so, we will hold general election. And generally, we know who to vote for. We all have, because we don't just vote with our heart, we vote with our mind. And we vote based on what we know. Now, first generation, pioneer generation, Merdeka generation, we have all gone through the early years of Singapore's independence, 50s and 60s. We know how tough it was, all right? Now, nowadays, you can complain about cost of living, housing unaffordable. In those days, these problems were there all along. During my time, when I got married, I don't even have a house. I just rent a room. All right. Those days, people just rent a room and they start to get married, settle down, and have families. But today is very different. Everyone can afford to get a HDB flat. If you have income of 1,500 and above, you can be assured of getting a HDB flat. So this is what is more important, is whether it's affordable or not. More important is whether you have good jobs and whether you have steady income. That's what we should be talking about. Not whether it's cost of living or GST. No, those are all side issues. Cost of living, GST, it is all over the world. In fact, Singapore's GST is the lowest in the world. Our cost of living is the most manageable in the world. If you look at even in the US, how much does a dozen eggs cost? It costs you $6-7 US. All right. So even the US, most countries, their cost of living is in Europe. Their energy prices will kill them. All right. They are paying a lot of money for their energy. But in Singapore, we are more fortunate. Why? Because our leaders have the foresight. Many years ago, when Lee Kuan Yew started, first we have the refinery in Jurong, petrochemical plant, all right? Oil refinery. In fact, Singapore is the third largest oil refinery in the world, even though we don't produce one drop of oil. And then Jurong is also now one of the LNG storage hub and trading hub. All right, because it's important, LNG. And because of this, Singapore, we have sufficient buffer for our energy sources. That's why we are manage to control our energy prices. Now, this is important. Now, this is having the foresight, the pragmatism, all right, of government. No crushing of gears, like I say, and government leaders are all trained, well prepared. In fact, if you look at our 4G leaders now under Lawrence Wong, they have gone through baptism of fire during COVID-19, and we have gone through COVID-19 with flying colors. The one of the lowest death rate in the world, and we got out of COVID-19 one of the earliest. And our economy also rebounded extremely quickly. So the 4G team is already tested in many ways. And that is why I think when it comes to the election, we should all give them a resounding mandate so they can carry on the good work. And if anything were to go wrong, you can be sure we'll be pragmatic enough to either change course or to fine-tune. Now, LKY said something very important. He said, if the system, there's nothing wrong, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I say, even worse, if it is not broke, don't go and break it and then try to fix it. So with that note, I would like to wish everybody during elections, exercise your vote because it is important, all right, for the future of Singapore, not just for the next 5 years, but for the next 20 years. Even I won't be around to see it, but the impact will last 20 years. So I wish everybody coming Saturday, election time, exercise your vote wisely. Thank you very much. This is Uncle Yeow signing off saying Madura Singapura.